यदा यदा हि धर्मस्य
ब्रह्मादिभ्यो ब्रह्म विद्या संप्रदाय कर्तृभ्यो वंशऋषभ्यो महद्भ्यो नमो गुरुभ्यः सर्वोपप्लवरहित प्रज्ञान घन प्रत्यगर्थो ब्रह्माहमस्मि सोहमस्मि ब्रह्माहमस्मि ओम प्रपन्नपादिजाताय तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः. May the Almighty Shri Lord Venkateshwara bestow all kinds of prosperity, health, wealth and eternal happiness with Paripurna Lakshmi Katakshams to you and the entire your family and friends. Let us begin Bhagavad Gita, verse number 13th of 15th chapter. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Gama Vishyacha Bhutani धारयाम्यहमोजसा पुष्णामि चौषधि सर्वाः सोमो भूत्वा रसात्मकः. The transaction is the main part of our life, isn't it? The transaction is known as the life. Transaction between world and me, the transaction between my family and me, the transaction between me and me. Me who is in the form of body, mind and sense complex, who is in the form of consciousness, who is in the form of limited consciousness. Note the point, limited consciousness. When I wake up every day morning, I have to deal with my body, my mind and sense complex. Through that I have to deal the world. Now, all the emotions which are taking in my psychological system has to be dealt with properly. Otherwise, I will be in trouble, isn't it? Not only me, every one of us in the same situation. We have to deal with the transaction. It begins from our limited consciousness. I have to face my ahankara every day. My ahankara, sometimes it's happy, sometimes it's very sad, sometimes it is boring, because that ahankara, which is nothing but the result of karma phala, that limited consciousness, the consciousness which is borrowed from the original consciousness, that which is reflected in my buddhi. So when I use my, you have to take in the form of I, okay? Yours. I am just speaking as in the form of your mind, means our own buddhi. You just adapt my sentence as it is, you can understand. So I am getting up in the morning, I have to deal with my own ahankara. Who wakes up? That waking up is a person, ahankara, who helps us to deal with my emotions, my thoughts, my feeling and my aim, means goal of my life. Not only that, with the people around me, it also should have the memory of the past incidents, accidents. I mean the experiences which we have got through the incidents, accidents. With all this setup, with all these equipments, I have to face the next second or the current second, which is nothing but the result of my own karma phala. It becomes so difficult for me to face my own karma phala, which comes in the form of experience. That experience can be bad and good. If I am happy by attaining something, that I have to know my punya karma is fructifying its fruit. That is what the normal life every day we undergo. But when you bring the knowledge from Shastra, that time you are able to see the norms of the function of this entire universe. Not only that, you can become a complete free person. You can just withdraw yourself from all the actions or result of actions, which is known as Jivan Mukta Avastha. This Jivan Mukta Avastha is the main goal of Shastra. Shastra is not going to ask you to attain moksha after death. Karma Kanda will do that. Karma Kanda will do, there are some rituals by following which you can become Indra after this Sharira, after giving up this Sharira. After death, you can become, a chief of Indra Loka, a chief of Brahma Loka. You can even become a creator, means Brahmaji, one who creates, the job who is following according to the instruction of Mahavishnu, who was born from the Nabi, from the navel of Mahavishnu. All those powers can be adapted through our karma pala. These are all the visions of Vedanta. The 15th chapter, which is very important chapter, in which we have learnt what is samsara karanam. Then also we learnt what is the means for it. Then finally we also got the definition of Brahman. Na tad bhashayate suryaha na shashanko na pavakaha yadgatva ninivartante tadhama paramam mama. That we have learnt. That is what is known as Supreme Brahman. That Brahman alone which exists in the form of Jiva, that we have learned from verse number 7 to 11. Then the verse number 12 to 15, we are learning all dead materials which are known as insentient prapancha, means Jada prapancha or Achetana prapancha is also nothing but Ishvara. Therefore, in the last session, we concluded with the verse number 13. In 13 we saw Aham Gam Avishya Vojasa Bhutani Dharayami. I sustain all the object being penetrated in that objects. Now, no dead material at all in this world. That is what the final understanding. But in our transaction, we have our own norms. We don't speak with the statue. Now, when you go to any shop, nowadays there are, statues are kept in front of garments shop. If you want to take any garments, means clothes, new clothes, ready-made garment shop. So there are so many statues are kept. You don't speak with the statue. How are you? Good morning. It's been long time meeting you. We don't ask all this. We know whom to talk, whom to share, whom to transact. But the transaction also we do with the dead materials. And we also, become addicted, become slave to that dead material. For example, one of my friend, he uses all the equipments, pen, rubber, pencil, bag, mobile. He says, this is my luckiest pen. This is my luckiest color bag. So he makes every dead material so alive, he becomes slave to that. That's what idiotic thinks. That's not the understanding of Ishvara. Ishvara never binds. Ishvara never gives karma phala. Ishvara never gives bondage. That's what we learnt. We learnt it from 5th verse itself. Nakartrutvam nakarmani lokasya srijati prabhu. Nakarma phala sanyogam swabhavastu pravartate. Ishvara is not a sadist who brings karma phala, who asks us or who makes us to suffer. He never does. He never wants to make us suffer. Ishvara, the concept of Ishvara must be understood. You cannot find any loophole from Vedanta, top to bottom. The Vedanta which is implied in the form of Sandhyavadana, the Vedanta which is implied as the worship, mere worship in any form. There are 6 forms which have been taken by Acharya. We call it Shaiva, Vaishnava, Sattva, Kaumara, Granapatya, Saura. There are 6 main varieties. All deities, they have been taken as the center point of it. All those deities are nothing but Brahma Swarupa. Now, dealing with dead material, And becoming samsari is not because of Ishvara's grace, it is because of the ignorance which we own. This has to be understood well. Are you getting or not what I am saying now? The world is nothing but Ishvara. It never causes for any problem. That's what the teaching we are learning now. The world never causes for problem. I thought, oh my God, we were thinking the world alone causes for all the problems which I suffer. Now when you learn, when Bhagavan says, so the earth which is nothing but my form, in which I nourish everything. Ishvara never brings suffering. Ishvara never brings bondage. Then why do I suffer? The ignorance which swakalpitam, the ignorance which has taken place in me, due to that ignorance alone, I suffer. Like a person, when he says, this is my luckiest pen. What happened? His own son broke that pen. He was so sad for 2 months, I tell you. He was kept on cursing his own son. He was playing, but unknowingly he fell down on that pen, therefore it was broken. He was not able to accept at all the fact, was kept on cursing. Then finally I thought, okay, I should stop that. Then I told, this is not right. You have to become a response person towards your son. You are giving more priority to that pen than your son. No, he said that was the luckiest pen. When I bought this pen, then alone I got married. See the connection. What kind of nonsense connections that he brings between pen and marriage. He says, when I bought this pen, then alone, I was fixed with marriage because my marriage was delayed for 10 years. Then I said, do you think this pen brought your spouse? He said, yes, of course, Swamiji, it was luckiest pen. It brought me a job, it brought me a car, it brought me my family. Now I don't know what is going to happen. He started thinking in that way. Becoming slave to the dead materials is only possible when you allow that, you give permission. That permission is granted through ignorance. He was not able to manage his mind. He kept on blaming others. He was thrashing his wife and all. Then finally, I asked him to sit in front of me and I gave, the knowledge from Shastra. Don't do this. Not only him, we also do the same. Luckiest house, luckiest person, luckiest car. That thing is very wrong. So no object. This possession, that possession plays this kind of role. We should not give the rights of our life to a dead material. Then immediately he asked me one more question. What else you do with the temple? You people always, depended on the statue. I'm also like that, I was dependent on that pen. The only thing I didn't do Abhishek, I didn't do all this mantra, but I believed. Then I said, yes, good, you believed, isn't it? So you believed. Then you should know how to believe. That belief is off. Yes, we have Shraddha, which is supported by Shastra. We are not dependent on that form of the statue. Through the statue in the beginning days, we depend on the statue to bring our mind into a focused status. Then we learn through the statue. We overcome that form of the statue. We go and understand God concept in subtle way. And the philosophy says that statue never brings bondage. But you got bondage with that pen. Without pen, you are not able to live. Then he understood. These are all wrong understanding. The 15th chapter, if we want to discuss deeply, it will go on and on and on. It gives answer for many questions which by which we suffer in our life. Sometimes what happens, one person came and he said, Swamiji, why we make the bell sound during the puja? Somebody might have told him, so because Bhagavan should become aware that we are doing puja. Okay. And I said, it's not that Bhagavan should become aware, because he is very alert and aware always, that we have to become alert. But the symbol of, ringing bell, that bell is a mangalam. It's an auspicious sound. It purifies the environment. Therefore, teaching is not from one angle. Teaching is from three angles, It is in the angle of Vyavaharika Sata, in the normal transaction level. In the normal transaction level, you need to have a form to communicate as in the form of God. Then the second is Paramarthika level. So that is to be understood. The concept of God, which is beyond everything, is to be understood as in the form of real reality. That real reality need not to be brought into this transaction level. I can feel, everything is bouncing on your head. Okay, let me explain in proper way, means in simple way. The understanding of the God, which helps us to have better transaction. Okay, but the understanding of God is still more than our transaction, which helps us to realize ourselves properly. Okay, that's what is going on here. We can have better transaction when we understand about the reality of the world, reality of the self, because a transaction needs a better, best understanding of both sides. Otherwise, transaction will be half or vague. Any transaction, if you want to love with somebody, you can love properly. You won't become a bound person by that. If you want to do a business, you can be a successful businessman. You can have whatever many friends, partnership you want. Then the transaction with your birth and death. Transaction goes on and on and on. Life is nothing but transaction. If you want to have a successful transaction, you should know the reality of the self and the world. Then you can have a better transaction. What was the understanding that we got from verse number 7 to 11? What was the understanding? What is that understanding? That understanding, God and me are not two realities, only one reality. Now again, the God and world, there are no two realities. They are one reality. What is the benefit that will bring to me? It will give me a kind of ability to have a better transaction. When I come to know the earth is nothing but Ishvara, then my attitude changes. When my attitude changes by the understanding, my business changes. My business becomes, qualified business. Means the business which is endowed with better quality. Qualified business and the business with better quality, it has got two kinds of meaning. Okay. The final understanding, I will have a better transaction means what? I will continue to be a asamsari, who is in the form of jnani, having a better transaction. That is what the content of this. Now just we will go to the meaning of the words which we saw in the last session itself. Aham means the Ishvara. Krishna says Aham. That Aham is not the Krishna with blood and flesh. Okay, the Krishna who is endowed with Maya, who is in the form of Ishvara. Aham. Gam avish Ojasa bhutani dharayami. I sustain the earth, planet earth. Not only planet earth, all the planets. Okay. I sustain the planets, the creature in the planets, being penetrated in the earth. I sustain the planet earth with my energy, Ojas. Now Tejas and Ojas, they have to be explained properly. Ojas means that invisible energy. Tejas which is visible. sun is visible, Agni is visible, moonlight is visible. All those illumining powers were visible, but Ojas, which is not visible. That Ojas of the earth we can see from plants. So when you put the seed is rooted and it becomes as a tree. Ojas of the earth. The earth has got a capacity to produce something, to grow something, is because of what? That is my Ojas. I alone nourish all planets, including human beings. Somo bhutva rasatmakaha sarvaha chaushadhihi pushnami. Being in the form of the moon, I alone nourish all the plants. Okay? Then the next words. Aham vaishvanaro bhutva praninam deham ashritah pranapana samayuktaha pacham yannam chaturvidham. This is the main words of 15th chapter, because of which we chant 15th chapter before meal. Okay? That's what Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva. Bhagavan says, me alone, being in the form of Jatharagni. Jatharagni means the power which helps to digest the food. This is the main part of our body, isn't it? And people say that this brain becomes the main of the entire system. No. If you want to get a proper brain function, your stomach should have proper function. That function which is in the form of digestion, that digestion is because of me, because of my power. I alone, who exist in the form of digesting system, in all creatures assimilate 4 kinds of foods. That's all. What is the base of the life? Life needs to have pranic energy. In order to live, we need to have the energy. Energy we get from the food. So when you swallow the food, the digestion must be taken place. I always say everything takes place. Our sleep is taking place. Our waking state also is taking place. Our dream takes place. Our waking state takes place. Even breath is taking place. Blood circulation which takes place. Digestion which takes place. Because all of them beyond our control. When you put sugar in your mouth, the taste takes place. But I say, I taste the sugar. The taste is taking place because the tasting sense doesn't belong to me. It is connected with the world. Therefore, when I am occupied by a sad feeling or emotion, if at all I put the sugar, that sugar doesn't bring the sweetness or happiness. So that is, another system that we will see later. But here, these words, Bhagavan says, I alone exist in the form of digestive system. In all creatures, no creature can be found without the digestive system. That's all, khatam ho gaya. The foundation of the life is nothing but the digestive system. Food has to be digested. Now the food is, which is nothing but prapancha, and the life which is the impact of prapancha. In between there is one phenomenon called digestion. Even ideas has to be digested. When you study every words of Bhagavad Gita, you should have the ability to digest the content. Otherwise, we won't assimilate anything. The assimilation which is physical, the assimilation which is subtle, both of them is me. That is what the message from Lord Krishna. And Krishna, he says, there are 4 kinds of foods. So, 4 kinds of food means it is the division according to Ayurveda. The food which you can eat by having chewing, means by biting, chewing, by tasting, by licking, So, these varieties of foods are digested. But by having alay with prana, apana, etc., the system which gets the digestion, a system which should be endowed with prana, apana, etc. Because Samanan is one of these 5 pranas. Prana, apana, vyana, udana, samana. Okay, the Samanan, or we can also say Vaishvanaraha, the digestive system, which is nothing but Ishvara. Now you need not to look for the evidence of Ishvara. If anybody asks, show me your Ishvara, then immediately you can say that. So you will come to know Ishvara once in a 5 hours. When you have breakfast after 5 hours, I am saying maximum 5 hours. So in between itself we swallow so many things. Coffee. That coffee also, black coffee, white coffee, cold coffee, hot coffee. So what are the varieties there? Okay, we have. And now and then all these chatpats, all these, what I can say, snacks. Everything we put inside and collapsing Ishvara, the system which is known as digestion. That is wrong. We should not do it. So now the final understanding, aham annam pachami. I alone digest, but I was thinking, I digest. But Ishvara says, I alone digest, my dear. You are not. Your responsibility is to get proper food. You should know, okay. You should judge properly whether you are providing proper food or not. But the digestion is because of me. We will continue more from next session tomorrow. Harihi Om. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.